But first tonight, Australia's domestic debates are upsetting some of the neighbours, and they're using the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting to speak out. The Malaysian Prime Minister has hit back at the repeated attacks on his country's human rights record, something the opposition used as a weapon against the government in the border protection battle. And the Sri Lankan delegation has returned fire on allegations it committed war crimes in the final stages of that country's bloody civil war. Political editor Chris Uhlmann is in Perth following the build-up to the Commonwealth Jamboree.
Good morning.
When leaders gather, there's always plenty to chat about.
Thank you.
The day before the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting kicks off in Perth, the Prime Minister busied herself with a round of one-on-one talks.
I probably need to do that again.
The meeting of most immediate interest to outsiders was with the Malaysian Prime Minister, and he was keen to air his views on the controversial people swap deal killed off by the High Court and Parliament.
It is not a Malaysian solution, it is an Australia-Malaysia solution. That has to be corrected. And number two, it's a solution that benefits both countries, and that's why we are keen on it. But it has to be put on hold until the situation allows us to revive it, hopefully in the near future.
Are you offended that Australia seems to be thinking that Malaysia would be a deterrent?
We are caught in a crossfire. It is not a correct perception because refugees in Malaysia do get very good treatment, in spite of the fact we are not signatory to UN Convention, but they are treated very well in Malaysia.
The man who put Malaysia in the crossfire is in Perth and unrepentant.
It's a great deal for Malaysia, but it's a dud deal for Australia. That's what we've been saying all along here. It's a cruel deal for both people, and it's a dud deal for Australia.
Well, the ball is in Australia's court now, and that's exactly the point the Prime Minister was making to me today. And she has to make sure that there's enough support for it.
You believe that you do treat asylum seekers?
Yes, we do. Yes,
Prime
we do.
Minister, are you disappointed in the attacks that Tony Abbott has made on the way people are treated in Malaysia? And would you be urging Mr Abbott to support the Australian legislation so this, as you described, win-win for both countries can go ahead?
I like to put the record straight and not attribute this to anyone's comment, but putting a record straight that refugees and asylum seekers are treated well in Malaysia. That is a fact, and we're recognised by the UN as well.
Would you be happy if Mr Abbott changed his mind? Would you be urging him to change his mind and pass the legislation?
I would be happy for all Australia to support the arrangement.
He's been an excellent partner for Australia. He has worked with us in particular on the law enforcement aspects of dealing with the challenges of people smuggling in Southeast Asia, and we regard him as a strong friend and good partner of Australia.
But these are nation-to-nation concerns. 43 leaders and 3,000 delegates have come to Perth for a meeting in search of an agenda. So in order to give it one, 2 years ago the leaders set up an eminent persons group, and its job was to craft a charter for the Commonwealth. Among its 106 recommendations is a call for a Human Rights Commissioner, a plea to do more to end child marriage and to show more leadership on pandemics.
There is, I think, a reasonable chance of it going through, but if it is either vetoed or if it is kicked into the long grass, it will be a most terrible setback for the Commonwealth, probably the worst setback for the Commonwealth and its values in recent times.
In a sign of how impotent the Commonwealth is, its Secretariat has refused one simple plea from the eminent persons group, that its report be published.
I expect that may be controversial in some circles, but it shouldn't be, because its object is to try to help Commonwealth countries, not to be judgmental, but to make sure that the principles which are accepted at every Commonwealth meeting are actually lived out in practice. An association of nations that proclaims its values but doesn't always observe them is really not going to enjoy the respect of the global community or of its own members.
The Sri Lankan President Mahinda Rajapaksa has been the lightning rod for human rights concerns at this gathering. He's a controversial guest given he stands accused of war crimes committed 2 years ago at the end of his country's bloody civil war. He wasn't talking today.
What do you make of all the talk about Sri Lanka and human rights issues?
Thank you. We have to go. You can listen to that.
But the President's spokesman did agree to an interview. Well, the United Nations says that there are credible allegations of human rights abuses by your government during the final stages of your civil war.
We have totally denied that because it was a humanitarian operation in Sri Lanka in which we ended terrorism after 30 long years. And also we have also questioned back, and what is this talk? We suffered for 30 long years. What are they talking of last 10 days? Where were they before?
Well, they were talking about the last few months and 330,000 people trapped in an ever-diminishing area which was shelled by the government.
And you see, 330,000 people crossed over. And I think the world saw how they crossed over. They were under the gun boot or jackboot of the LTT. They used them as human shield. It's really the Sri Lankan, the forces, the government forces, which rescued them.
But you deny all those allegations?
Yes.
That you shelled no-go zones, that you shelled hospitals?
Yes, so the LTT, I would say, they are masters of propaganda. They use lots of money, I would say, the Tamil Tiger terrorists, and that's what they are doing. So we have this, the report will come, the Lessons and LLRC Commission report will be out in November, but that will say it all.
So you deny all that your government shelled areas where the Red Cross was trying to evacuate people onto ships?
So I would say, I must tell you something very interesting. In fact, International Federation of Red Cross and the Red Crescent, and they worked with us. You know, most of the food was sent by the government. Even during when they fought the LTT for 30 years, the food was given, which people don't know about it. The food convoys went through UNHRC. That is what it went. Even the High Commissioner here in Canberra has been commended by the International Red Cross. I think there are records for that, Chris.
But the UN says that in the early part of 2009, tens of thousands of people died, and these are credible allegations. So you just say they're all fabrications?
We would say hearsay, and these are hearsay, and these are allegations. So let our report would say it, because they went on, I would say, more than the UN, the LLRC, they went to these northern areas. They had their sessions all over. That report will come out in November. That would say it all.
And that will be your response to the international community?
Yes, definitely.
The next meeting of the Commonwealth is scheduled for Sri Lanka in 2013. Some leaders have threatened to boycott it.
I mean, I would say that is totally against the principle of Commonwealth. I mean, we cannot give in to terrorism and terrorist backers. I think Commonwealth is all about democracy and development. So I think your Prime Minister has said it very clearly, your Foreign Minister has said it clearly, and that was decided that Sri Lanka will host 2013. I think the other Commonwealth countries should really look in, and like our President told your Prime Minister yesterday, that we can do all this with bilateral and see for yourself what's the situation in Sri Lanka.
I think there is a general feeling this time that the Perth meeting is a really important one. This is more to do with finding a future for the Commonwealth, and I do believe it is in important ways a make or break meeting for this association.
But for now, it's Australia's turn to count down to the Commonwealth Jamboree.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Isn't that how you do chess?
Yes, good. That's right. Yeah. That's what Sue.